When it comes to creating a real fear of loss in a woman's mind, the very first and most powerful thing you must understand is the importance of building unshakable self-worth. This is not about arrogance. It's not about pretending you're something you're not. And it's definitely not about playing shallow games. What truly triggers that deep emotional response in a woman, the kind that makes her feel like she could lose you at any moment if she doesn't value you, is the realization that you already know your worth. You see, most men make the mistake of placing a woman on a pedestal. They meet a girl they like, they find her attractive, they feel chemistry, and instantly they begin to treat her as if she's the prize, as if she's the center of their world. And the problem with that is when you put someone else above yourself, you subconsciously communicate that your value is lower. A woman can sense that. She can feel it in the way you text, in the way you call too often, in the way you bend over backwards to please her, in the way you neglect your own priorities just to get her attention. That energy doesn't make her want you more. It makes her realize she has all the power. But when you shift your mindset and start operating from self-worth, everything changes. Imagine walking into a relationship already grounded in your own mission, your own vision, your own life purpose. You wake up each day with goals you're chasing, dreams you're building, and habits you're strengthening. You're not waiting for her to text you good morning to feel validated. You've already validated yourself by taking action toward what matters most in your life. That is attractive. That is magnetic. A woman looks at that and realizes, this man doesn't need me to complete him. He's already complete. And that right there is the seed of fear. Because once she knows you're whole on your own, she knows she can't control you. She knows she can't manipulate you. She knows she can't take you for granted. Think about it, people only fear losing what they can't easily replace. When you're just another guy who is desperate for attention, who lacks direction, who doesn't really believe in his own value, she knows there are 100 more like you. But when you're a man who stands tall, who invests in himself, who is constantly leveling up, then suddenly you become rare. Rare is valuable. Rare is irreplaceable. And the thought of losing something rare is exactly what creates that emotional tension inside her. Now, how do you actually build this unshakable self-worth in practice? It begins with self-respect. If you don't respect yourself, you can't expect anyone else to. Self-respect means you're not living at the mercy of other people's opinions. You're not bending your values just to keep someone around. You're not lowering your standards because you're afraid she might walk away. Instead, you're living in alignment with your own principles. You know what you deserve and you refuse to accept anything less. That doesn't mean being cold or cruel. It means being clear. A woman can sense when a man has boundaries. She can feel when a man respects himself, and naturally that makes her respect him more. Building self-worth also means you never let a relationship become your only source of fulfillment. Many men fall into this trap. They get into a relationship and suddenly all their hobbies, their friends, their goals, their gym sessions, their reading, their side hustles, they all disappear. Their life begins to orbit around the woman. At first, she might enjoy the attention, but sooner or later she begins to feel suffocated, and even worse, she starts to lose attraction. Why? Because she realizes he has no life outside of her. He's dependent, he's needy, and dependency always kills attraction. But when you continue living fully, when you continue to pursue your passion, when you continue to grow and evolve regardless of whether she's next to you or not, that's when she feels the opposite. She feels a healthy pressure. She feels the urge to keep up with you. She feels the subtle fear that if she doesn't give her best, she could lose you to your mission, to your purpose, or even another woman who sees your value. Another element of self-worth is confidence. Not the loud, fake confidence that's just covering insecurity, but the calm, steady kind that comes from knowing who you are and what you bring to the table. Confidence is born out of competence. When you work on yourself, when you get in shape, when you grow financially, when you improve your communication skills, when you master your craft, confidence becomes a natural byproduct. And when you carry yourself with that kind of quiet confidence, it radiates. A woman can't ignore it. She can't help but notice that you're not the type to chase, you're the type that gets chased. One of the most powerful signals of self-worth is this: you don't settle. You don't chase love out of desperation. You don't stay in toxic relationships because you're afraid of being alone. You're not willing to sacrifice your peace just to avoid rejection. Instead, you're perfectly fine walking away from anyone who doesn't match your energy, your vision, or your standards. That's what makes you powerful. That's what makes her fear losing you. Because she knows deep down, if she starts taking you for granted, you won't beg, you won't cling, you won't collapse. You'll simply move on with your life. And let's be honest, women test men. They do it all the time, not necessarily to be cruel, but to see what kind of man they're dealing with. If she knows she can push your buttons, if she knows you'll abandon your goals just to keep her happy, if she knows you'll ignore disrespect just to avoid conflict, she loses respect. But when she tests you and finds out that you're solid, that you don't flinch, that you continue living your truth no matter what, that's when she realizes you're not the average guy. That's when the fear sets in, because she understands that she can't afford to lose a man like you. So remember this: building unshakable self-worth is not just about how you act with women. It's about how you act with yourself when nobody's watching. It's about the daily disciplines, the choices you make, the standards you keep, the way you carry yourself in every area of life. A man who knows his worth never has to chase validation. He becomes the validation. And that energy, that aura, that presence, it's what makes a woman sit back and think, if I don't value him, someone else will. That thought is exactly what triggers her fear of losing you. The second way to trigger a woman's fear of losing you is by mastering the power of scarcity. This is one of the most misunderstood principles when it comes to attraction. Because a lot of men take it to the extreme. They think scarcity means ignoring her completely, disappearing for days, or playing cold games that actually end up backfiring. That's not what true scarcity is about. Scarcity is about balance. It's about learning the art of giving your presence in a way that's meaningful but never overwhelming, in a way that makes her value your time because it's not something she can take for granted. You see, human nature is wired to desire what feels limited. When something is rare, we instinctively assign it more value. Think about luxury items, watches, cars, jewelry, art. It's not just the quality that makes them desirable, it's the fact that they're not available to everyone. The same principle applies in relationships. If you're always available, if you're constantly chasing, constantly texting, constantly calling, you remove all mystery. She knows you'll always be there, so there's no urgency, no tension, no fear of loss. But when you learn to create just the right amount of space, suddenly she's thinking about you more. She starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're not constantly at her feet. That curiosity is powerful. It's what keeps her emotionally invested. Now, let's be clear, scarcity doesn't mean withholding affection when it's genuine. It doesn't mean playing cold when you actually want to connect. It means you're intentional with your time and attention. You're not giving it away freely like it has no value. You understand that your energy, your focus, and your presence are precious. And because you treat them as precious, she learns to treat them that way too. The mistake most men make is they flood a woman with attention. They believe the more available they are, the more she'll appreciate them. But the truth is, the opposite happens. When you're always available, she doesn't need to fight for your time. There's no challenge, no anticipation. Attraction is fueled by tension, the push and pull of closeness and distance. If you remove the distance, the dynamic becomes flat. She knows she has you fully secured, and the fear of losing you disappears. Think about how it feels when someone doesn't reply to your message right away. For a moment, your mind starts to race. You wonder what they're doing, why they haven't answered, and whether you still have their full attention. That uncertainty creates desire. It makes you lean in. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore women to create that effect. What I'm saying is you should have such a full, rich life that you're not glued to your phone waiting for her message. When you're genuinely busy with your mission, your hobbies, your growth, your friends, and your ambitions, you naturally respond when you can. That's real scarcity. It's not manufactured. It comes from living a life that doesn't revolve around her. Women notice this difference. If you're always waiting on her, she feels it. If you're constantly adjusting your schedule to fit her needs, she senses it. But if you're genuinely engaged in your own life, she feels that too. And that feeling makes her want to earn more of your time. She starts to think, he's not always available. I better make the most of the time I do have with him. That's exactly how the fear of losing you begins to grow. Scarcity also means knowing when to pull back, not in a manipulative way, but a natural rhythm. Relationships, especially in the beginning, thrive on unpredictability. If you're predictable in every way, always the first to text, always the one to initiate plans, always the one to chase, you strip away the excitement. But when sometimes you're the one initiating and other times you're focused on your own world, she never fully knows what to expect. That unpredictability is magnetic because it keeps her on her toes. It's important to understand that women want to feel chosen, but they don't want to feel like you had no other choice. If she senses that you're desperate for her attention, that you have nothing else going on, that you would drop everything just to be with her, she starts to lose attraction. But if she feels that you've chosen her out of abundance, that you could be spending your time elsewhere, but you're choosing to share it with her, then she values it. Scarcity makes her see your attention as a gift, not as something she's entitled to. And here's where most men fail. They think the solution is to play games. They purposely delay text. They act uninterested. They pretend to be busier than they are. But women are intuitive. They can tell the difference between real scarcity and fake scarcity. Fake scarcity feels manipulative. It feels forced. Real scarcity feels natural. It feels like you're genuinely living a life so fulfilling that no one person can completely consume your time. And that's the kind of energy that makes her fear losing you because she knows your world won't fall apart if she's not in it. Let me give you an example. Imagine two men. One man is constantly free. If a woman calls, he cancels whatever he was doing to see her. If she texts, he replies instantly every single time, even if he was in the middle of something important. His whole life bends around her schedule. The other man, however, has structure. He's busy building his business, hitting the gym, hanging with his friends, learning new skills. When she calls, sometimes he can meet, sometimes he can't because he actually has priorities. When she texts, he replies, but not instantly every time because he's not living on his phone. He's living his life. Which man do you think she fears losing more? Which man do you think she values more? Always the second, not because he's playing hard to get, but because he genuinely is hard to get. Scarcity also extends into the way you show your emotions. If you're constantly pouring out compliments, constantly affirming her, constantly trying to prove your love, it loses impact. Words and gestures only carry weight when they're balanced with moments of restraint. If you tell her you love her 100 times a day, it becomes background noise. But if you express it occasionally, sincerely, in moments where it's truly felt, those words hit much harder. Scarcity makes even your affection more valuable. The key is balance. Too much distance and she feels rejected, unwanted, and may pull away. Too much closeness and she feels smothered, entitled, and may take you for granted. But when you master the rhythm of presence and absence, you create a magnetic push and pull that keeps her deeply engaged. She wants more of you, but she can't always have all of you. And that's exactly what keeps her chasing, keeps her investing, and keeps her fearing that if she doesn't step up, she might lose you. So understand this. The power of scarcity lies not in manipulation, but in living a life that's so full, so rich, and so aligned with your purpose that no relationship ever becomes your entire identity. When you carry yourself this way, when your time and attention are given intentionally rather than constantly, women feel the weight of it, they feel the value, and the thought of losing that kind of man, the man who is present but not dependent, available but not desperate, the thought is what keeps them holding on tighter. If you really want to make a woman fear losing you, you have to lead with confidence and direction. This doesn't mean barking orders or acting like some dictator, but it does mean having a strong sense of who you are, where you're going, and refusing to be swayed off course just because of emotions, moods, or external pressures. Women are naturally drawn to men who live with purpose, and they are equally repelled by men who seem lost, indecisive, or constantly seeking approval. A man who knows what he wants, who moves forward with clarity, and who carries himself with confidence is the kind of man who automatically creates value, and the more value you bring to the table, the more she fears losing you. Confidence is not just a look. It's not just the way you walk in a room, though. That's part of it. True confidence comes from competence. It comes from building yourself into someone who is capable, someone who handles challenges, someone who can adapt and thrive in different situations. When you develop your skills, improve your mindset, and constantly expand your life, you begin to walk differently, talk differently, and carry yourself differently. Women pick up on that instantly. They sense when you're the type of man who doesn't get shaken easily, who doesn't collapse under pressure, who doesn't break down just because things didn't go your way. That steady energy communicates power, and power always creates attraction. Direction is just as important as confidence. A lot of men may feel confident in the moment, but if they have no real direction in life, that confidence is hollow. Women don't just want to be with a man who looks good today. They want to know that he has a vision for tomorrow. They want to feel like being with you means being part of a bigger story, a journey that's moving forward, a mission that's worth being included in. If you're drifting through life without purpose, a woman may enjoy your company for a while, but she won't feel that deep emotional need to hold on to you. On the other hand, if you have goals, dreams, and ambitions, if you're waking up every day to pursue something bigger than yourself, she realizes that you're not just another man, you're a man on a path. And when she feels that the thought of losing you becomes something that actually scares her. Think about the difference between a man who is passive and a man who is decisive. A passive man asks for permission constantly. He's always waiting to see what others think, what she thinks before he makes a move. He hesitates, he second guesses, he doubts himself. That kind of energy kills attraction because it communicates weakness. A decisive man, on the other hand, knows how to make choices. He listens, he considers, but in the end he leads. He's not afraid of making the wrong choice because he trusts himself enough to handle whatever comes. That decisiveness is what women crave. It doesn't mean you control every aspect of her life, but it does mean you have enough certainty to make her feel safe, protected, and guided. That safety is priceless, and the fear of losing that kind of energy makes her cling tighter. Confidence also shows up in the way you communicate. Most men either talk too much trying to prove themselves or say too little because they're afraid of being judged. A confident man speaks with calm conviction. He doesn't raise his voice just to be heard, but when he speaks, people listen because there's substance behind his words. He doesn't need to over-explain or justify himself because his energy communicates enough. And with women, this type of calm confidence is magnetic. It tells her you're not looking for validation, you already validate yourself. That's what makes her respect you more deeply. Now, confidence without action is meaningless. A man who talks about what he's going to do but never actually does it is just another dreamer. Direction means you're backing up your words with consistent action. You don't have to have everything figured out, but you must be moving. Progress is what matters. Even small steps in the right direction communicate to her that you're not stuck, that you're not stagnant, and that you're going somewhere. She wants to know that if she's by your side, life is going to be an adventure, not a rut. And when she feels that forward momentum in you, she knows losing you would mean losing that exciting ride as well. Another aspect of leading with confidence and direction is the ability to stand firm in your decisions and values. Women will test you, not because they're cruel, because they want to see if you really believe in yourself. If you say one thing but fold the moment she pushes back, you show her that your words mean nothing. But if you stand firm, not aggressively, not in a way that disrespects her, but calmly with certainty, you prove to her that you are unshakable. That's what creates trust. That's what makes her feel safe. And that's what makes her realize that losing you would mean losing a man she can truly rely on. Direction also means leadership. Not the kind of leadership where you dominate or control, but the kind where you guide, inspire, and influence. A true leader doesn't need to force people to follow him. People naturally want to follow because they feel his vision, they see his confidence, and they trust his ability to take them somewhere worthwhile. In relationships, when you embody this kind of leadership, a woman feels proud to be by your side. She doesn't want to lose a man who makes her feel that she's part of something greater, that she's walking with someone who knows where he's going. The reality is that indecision is one of the biggest killers of attraction. When a man hesitates, when he waffles, when he refuses to take the lead, it drains the woman's sense of security. She may not say it out loud, but inside she starts questioning, can I really rely on him? Can he really protect me? Can he really provide stability in uncertain times? But when you demonstrate through your actions, your words, and your consistency that you're a man of confidence and direction, she doesn't question those things. Instead, she feels grateful, she feels secure, and most importantly, she feels a quiet fear that she could lose a man who makes her feel this way. So the secret here isn't to puff your chest out, it's not to act like you have all the answers, and it's not to play macho. The secret is to cultivate inner strength, to know yourself, to live with clarity, and to move with purpose. That combination of confidence and direction is rare in today's world. And remember, what is rare is always fear to be lost. The most powerful way to trigger a woman's fear of losing you is to truly be willing to walk away. This is not about bluffing. It's not about threatening, and it's not about trying to scare her with ultimatums. It's about embodying the mindset that you will never tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or lack of appreciation. When you carry yourself with this kind of strength, a woman knows she can't cross certain lines without consequences. That realization alone creates a deep fear of loss because she understands you are not like the average man who will put up with anything just to keep her around. Too many men hand over their power because they are terrified of being alone. They accept behavior that makes them unhappy. They compromise their values and they let disrespect slide, all because they're afraid she might leave. Ironically, the very act of clinging is what drives her away. A woman can feel when a man is scared to lose her. She knows when he's operating from fear instead of strength, and once she feels that, she loses respect. But when you shift into a place where you're not afraid of losing her, when you know that you'll be fine whether she stays or goes, that's when the dynamic changes completely. Being willing to walk away is the ultimate boundary. It shows that you value yourself above any relationship. You're not dependent on her approval to feel worthy. You're not attaching your entire identity to whether she chooses you or not. You know your value, and because of that, you're not going to tolerate behavior that lowers it. A woman who realizes this begins to think carefully about how she treats you. She knows if she slips into taking you for granted, you won't sit there hoping things change. You'll simply move on. That fear is powerful. It forces her to invest more, respect more, and appreciate more. Walking away doesn't always mean physically leaving. Sometimes it's emotional distance. Sometimes it's calmly stepping back when she tries to drag you into unnecessary drama. Sometimes it's refusing to argue endlessly over something meaningless. It's showing her that your peace is more valuable than her attempts to control you. That composure communicates strength, and strength is what she respects. When she sees you don't need to win every argument, that you don't need to prove yourself endlessly, that you can detach when needed, she realizes she doesn't have the kind of grip on you she might have on other men. And that creates the fear of losing you because she knows your world won't collapse if she's not in it. At the heart of this principle is self-respect. You can't be willing to walk away if you secretly believe you don't deserve better. You can't set boundaries if you think love is about enduring anything just to keep someone. Real strength is knowing that love without respect isn't love worth keeping. And the moment you carry yourself with that conviction, everything shifts. Women sense it. They recognize that you are rare, that you are not replaceable, and that if they don't treat you with the care you deserve, they might lose you forever. And that's why being willing to walk away is the strongest move you can make, because the man who can walk away is the man she never wants to lose.